Hey, what's going on, everybody? Navid Moaz is here, and in this session, we are going to talk about how you can become an authority in your industry practically overnight if you just follow the steps I'm going to share you. And if you're on here, obviously on YouTube or Google, you can find a lot of tips on how to actually become an authority. But what I'm going to share you here is kind of using my proven method, and that involves obviously hosting a widely successful virtual summit and then kind of getting experts on there. And that's what I'm going to teach you. How do you actually get these experts, and why is it so important to do some of this here? I'm going to show some screen. I'm going to even take some questions here of you on live. So if you want more content like this, I'm going to even give you my proven outreach email script so you can kind of use this and model it. I've only shared that before with my virtual summit mastery students. So that's kind of some stuff we're going to cover here. So hit that like button, subscribe here. If you're on YouTube, obviously, subscribe. If you're on live, let me know if you're coming on here in the chat. I'm going to take some questions as well as we go through this. And if you're coming on for a replay, do let me know in the comments as well if you're excited about some of what I'm going to share here. So I do see Daniel, I see Deanne, I see some other people coming on here as well. So that's awesome. We are going to get into some good stuff, as I mentioned. So I'm going to kind of hit the ground running here, and I'll check in with you guys on the chat if you're on live here. So I'm going to see with the stream, everything looks good here. So hopefully everything is working fine and you can see me clearly, and let's keep going with this. So this is what we are going to cover. So how to become an authority in your industry. So let's see if this is working here. Let's see if it's working. All right, cool. So basically, I'm going to tell you a little quick story. Like a few years ago, I interviewed Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income. That was in 2013. That was a long time ago now. And I had no experience, nothing, really on how to do online marketing or anything like that. I just kind of had a dream to kind of connect with some of these influencers. So I reached out and got him on for an interview. You can even find that if you go to my very first video on this kind of YouTube channel. I left it up there by purpose so you can see how kind of bad it was. Actually, I actually got some good responses because that's how I launched my brand kind of in navidmoazes.com back in the day. And the quality was not as good as it is now, but we all learn, right? And I teach kind of more in my virtual summit mastery program, so you don't make these mistakes. This was kind of from my student dorm, where I was living at the time when I was in law school before I kind of dropped out. And that was kind of the early days. He said yes. I just sent an email. I looked for an opportunity, basically. He was coming out with a book, and he invited people from his audience. I didn't even have a website at the time. And he said yes to me like a few minutes after I sent my initial email. He just, let's do this. And I had to figure out how to do an interview. I had never done an interview before. And he just said yes. And I was like blown away by that, actually. So that was pretty incredible, to be honest, to just kind of get someone like that. That was my first ever. So I don't necessarily recommend that you go for someone like that the first thing ever, right? You can certainly do that. That's good training wheels, but maybe a little better, like in my virtual summit mastery program, for example, people kind of partner up with each other and practice this, and also have a lot of strategy. I had to figure out. The quality didn't turn out that great either, but hey, that was my first kind of round to actually doing this. That was not for a summit. It was just kind of for my YouTube and for my website initially. But I learned a thing or two since then, obviously. And I'm gonna make sure also this one is kind of turned off, so I'm not using any bandwidth on my phone. All right, so let's get back here. And basically, the fastest and most effective way to build your authority is to associate yourself with influencers in your niche. That's by far the most effective way I've ever found. And I've seen this for myself, and I've seen this for a lot of students in all kinds of different markets, right? And they have done this even if they have zero experience. They don't even have knowledge on the topic. You don't need to be an expert on your topic to actually do this. You can actually bring on experts. You can be the facilitator. You can be the host of a virtual summit and bring these people together. That's one of the best ways you can do this. If you don't have experience, why not bring the top experts in your industry talking about the topic, and you're the host facilitating this experience, and people are going to learn from the experts on there, and then you're going to basically build your brand as well. So that's kind of a little bit teaser of what this is going to be and what this can do for you. Here you have a few examples like Alejandro. He basically went from zero to thought leader in an overcrowded niche, all while having a demanding full-time job. And And he says there also, if you're looking to make a big splash in a crowded industry, is no other way to have such an impact so fast. And that's basically what he did. He says that I went from a nobody in my niche to a trusted advisor and thought leader in my niche during my first virtual summit. And Mehriban, he's in the tennis niche. He found kind of the same experience, and Karen as well connected with a lot of influencers when she hosted her summit, right? So it's kind of checking in here on the chat. I see greets from Germany. I see some other people here as well. So definitely let me know. I'm going to share some really good stuff. We are kind of getting into this really quickly here. So basically, you can leverage their expertise and brand to become an authority by association. And so that's basically what it is. You're basically leveraging them, and then you can become, one of them essentially, become a peer of these influencers pretty fast. And you can leverage their audience to promote your work, to engage fans. That's kind of how a virtual summit really works, because you bring these experts together, and then you have them on that summit, and they can promote you. They can introduce you to their audience. How powerful is that, right? I mean, let me know in the chat or comments if you would like to have 20 to 30 of the top influencers in your market, in your niche, come on a virtual event you're hosting, and then many of them will also promote you, introduce you to their email list, to their social media following. How powerful is that? I mean, that's kind of priceless. You can't put a price on that. Advertising costs are going up and all of this kind of stuff. You don't want to blog away and hope for the best, right? You want to use something that's proven, that you can get results quickly, and then you can use all these other methods afterwards when you have a lot of content, which a virtual summit can help you do. You get paid essentially to build your email list, because a summit can be free, and then you have the all access pass, and these experts can share it out, and basically you're building the audience as well. And we're going to get into kind of how you can how you can add value to them, and all of this. We are coming up with that pretty soon here. All right. So basically, this is the holy grail of online business. Your success has nothing to do with the number of subscribers you have. I mean, it's important to build a large list, but it's even more important to have a great relationships. Only the engaged subscribers count, and even better if they come from to you via someone they trust. Like as I mentioned, like an influencer promotes you to their email list of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 100,000 people. They introduce you. They say, Navid is awesome at hosting virtual summits, or List Building School is happening. I'm a speaker on this summit, and they're introducing me there and having, hey, go sign up there. That's the conversion rates are incredible. You're getting 50 to even up to 80% conversion rates on some of these kind of landing pages and stuff like that when you have that. And also you're getting a very high conversion rates from free subscribers into paid, because the lifetime value of a summit attendee, and especially an all access pass customer, is very high. We have seen this over the years. Of course you get a few unsubscribes when you're doing a summit, or anything for that matter, any launch, but with a summit, they stay on your list because you're leading with so much value, and they want more from you. They want more from the people you kind of, connect with as well, and you can promote them also to your audience to add more value. And an engaged subscriber who comes to someone someone they trust is more valuable, much more valuable than just someone that comes from a Facebook ad, typically at least, or even from a blog post. They kind of see you here on a virtual summit. They see me kind of on a video like this. Obviously, the trust factor is much higher. I mean, blogs are great. We post quite a lot of content these days. We didn't do it for a little while, but now we started posting more content on the blog. That's after building this audience and now having kind of the resource to put together. Really, blogging and doing these other strategies are a lot more expensive. If I told you how much work goes into creating these blog posts and all these other assets, that's a lot of work, a lot more work even than hosting one virtual summit, a lot more work than that, and even cost more money with the backlinks and everything you need to do in order to rank a blog post over time. Or Facebook ads, as I mentioned, is getting more expensive and all this. So that's kind of what it is. And how can you get speakers if you're new and don't know anyone? I mean, that's one of the biggest fears. I mean, I had this fear when I started out. I don't know about you, but I didn't know all these people. I didn't have all these people in my world. I'm from Sweden. I'm a non-native English speaker. I just decided I had a dream. I wanted to make this happen. I wanted to serve an audience, have a bigger impact. So I started reaching out to them no matter what. I decided to just go for it. Although I had these fears kind of in the back of my head. I was like, what if they, think I'm strange? Or what if they think they're gonna say no, whatever that is. You just kind of put that aside and go for it. I'm gonna share with you here kind of how you can do this. So going straight for the big names, kind of big influencers, really like kind of A-list influencers without a strategy in place is one of the biggest mistakes people make. They just kind of go for it. They don't even plan their summit. They don't do any of that and just go for the influencers. That's not very smart, all right? But I'm gonna help you solve this here. And, it's kind of the top reasons influencers join your virtual summits. There's obviously more reasons as well, but I just wanted to kind of cover some of the top ones here. Financial gains from commission on sales or product promotion. So basically, you can give them 40 to 50%. Typically, when you're starting out, you can give them 50%, sometimes even higher. But like 50% is a solid commission on the all access pass on the summit funnel, so to speak. And then on the back end, you can give them 40 to 50% if you have your own product, or you can even partner with an expert to promote something in the back end. And if you're on here and thinking, I don't have anything to promote in the back end, don't worry. The summit can become your first product. It will become your first product. The influencers, essentially, they're creating this. It's kind of a collaborative event and experience, and you're creating this together with them, and they come on there, and that becomes kind of your all access pass. That's something you can sell, and you have a business. Even if you're starting from scratch, just hosting a summit, you have a business afterwards because you build your email list, you have your first product. That's basically how it works. Even if you have no experience, you can do this. I have a lot of people who have done this successfully. Obviously, quality content to share with their audience for free, that's a big one. Like, if you really focus on doing quality sessions with the speakers and, doing things for the right reasons, they're going to be more willing to kind of share that as well with their audience. And then increased exposure to thousands of new engaged subscribers. So, when they come on your summit, I mean, that's kind of obviously if they're massive influencers, there might not be as much kind of incentive, but you can still ensure you promote them. You can still ensure kind of you promote their lead magnet. You promote whatever they want, right? That's kind of what it is about. You can like share their lead magnet below the sessions. You can promote them even afterwards when you have a bigger audience. It's all about how you position it to them if they want to do this. And some A-listers, really big influencers, they might not share, and I'm gonna go into how you need to think about this, because a lot of people, they think it's only about the top, like the celebrity influencers. That couldn't be further from the truth. That's, trusted authorities, there's up-and-comers. I'm gonna talk about kind of how you should look at that as well here. So the last one is kind of good relationships that makes them want to help you. So if you're a good guy or whatever, a good girl, a good woman who's doing this for the right reasons, well, then you are sometimes they just want to help you. They want to give back. Like, one example of this I want to share with you. For my very first summit, I had Rand Fishkin on. He didn't know who I was. I just reached out to Rand. He was like, if I don't, say yes to some of this, I mean, he knew I was kind of a nobody starting out. He didn't know who I was. But he said, if I say no to some of these kind of new guys starting out, then there will not be another Moz. So Rand Fishkin is he's like, I think he sold his shares in this, but either way, he was the founder of Moz, basically a really big SEO company, like $20 million a year or something like this. And he basically says yes to, some things like that, even from people starting out. Like, he's a big name. He's like an A-lister in the content marketing space, SEO space. And he said yes to me as a little nobody there coming into the space because he wanted to give back. Some people, they do want that. So don't let that discourage you that you are kind of new, you're starting out and all this. Of course, there's some strategies you need to follow in order to get there, which I'm going to get into as well. So that's kind of some reasons why they might join. I'm going to check in here on the chat before we keep going here as well. Do let me know if you're on, if you have any comments. Hit that like button. We have a lot to cover today, so keeps me motivated to put out more content like this as well. And subscribe if you're on here too on the channel. All right. Avoid these three big mistakes people make when connecting with influencers. I do not want to see you do this. That's, if you're on here, you're not gonna do this, all right? This is the big mistake number one. Copy and paste. Generic emails just get deleted, so make sure you personalize your message. And I wanna address something around this. Really, don't even require the speakers to promote. Like, that's not in your first email. That should be pretty short. I'm gonna get into kind of what an email can look like. I'm gonna give you my script here if you stick around. But I don't want you to actually just have kind of a generic email and also like, hey, by the way, unless you have 5,000 email subscribers, that's kind of the requirement to be part of this summit. That's not how you do it. Like, that's not how you build a relationship. You don't want to build a transactional relationship with these influencers. You're going to be at the same level. You're not just going to, yes, because you promote me, I'm going to promote you. And that's not how it works typically. It kind of starts with a conversation. That's why me and kind of my students, we typically sometimes get on even a quick chat with them, if they're a big name, they might not have time for that, but still you can kind of agree on kind of the terms in the email, and then you can get them on there. And you shouldn't require someone like, Gary Vaynerchuk or Neil Patel and stuff like that to just promote. I mean, they're coming on your summit. They're doing you a big service there. And that's a driver for other people to come into your summit. And you're going to focus kind of your efforts on kind of the people like a few steps ahead of you and up and comers. And that's kind of, you can still get A-listers to promote. My students and I, we get really big names to promote our events as well. But you should not like, hey, promote this. Don't be pushy about this. They're gonna be really discouraged. They're gonna think, who is this guy who's requiring me? I worked years to build up my email list, and then you're coming in and just thinking you can just steal their email list basically from one kind of email or something like that from them. That's not how it works. But you can still get great results if you are kind of doing this for the right reasons and you're following what I'm sharing here. Big mistake number 2 is a win-lose pitch. If you don't make it clear how the partnership will benefit them, they will feel used. So you gotta kind of upfront say kind of how it can benefit them. That you are going to maybe turn it evergreen afterwards. You're gonna repurpose this content. You're gonna link to them. You're gonna promote their lead magnet. You're gonna do all these things. That's kind of important that you share with them as well. Don't go on and on in that first kind of outreach or anything like that. That's not how it works, but you can definitely, sometimes they want to have, they usually in influencers like myself, if someone reached out to me with a, good email or good outreach, I might say, okay, send me more information. And they send more information. Then you can tell a little bit more what to expect and how your event is different and all this kind of stuff as well, right? And you can even have like a one-pager and kind of a speaker kind of details and all this. We give you kind of templates for this even in Virtual Summit Mastery. You can kind of just swipe and model for your own liking. And then big mistake number 3 is vague summit topic. Without a clear message and target audience, the partnership is really destined for disaster. Like, you really need to make sure your summit's topic is specific. Don't have kind of, a wide variety of different things you cover, like really broad. If you're in a niche that's pretty competitive, it's much more effective to, narrow down your niche. Narrow down your niche until it hurts. Really be specific around this, and also be specific when you're reaching out to the speakers, what you really want to cover. You need to have done your research up front. You need to make sure this is not just some kind of template email, as I mentioned. You need to actually make sure you want to have them more. You need to be interested in that influencer. That's how it works, guys. That's really why my sessions are some of the most popular. I always get emails from people that, hey, Navid, I love your summit sessions. I really love how curious you are, because you actually genuinely want to learn about these things on your session. Yes, because I pick their brain. That's kind of free, kind of consulting almost for me sometimes. I'm getting on, and also I know obviously what my audience want to know more about, and I kind of think about these and I'm asking the right questions. And there's a science to doing that as well. How to do interviews. That's something we go really in depth into Virtual Summit Mastery. I've done this for a long time. How to do really powerful interviews. But that's said, so let's keep going here. So step 1, really identify influencers in your niche. That's the first step you need to do, and that's very important. So you can go on to podcast hosts or guests. I mean, they're primed for being kind of on summits because they already probably have the equipment, like they have probably a microphone, maybe even a webcam and stuff like that, so they can do this. Speakers on other summits, although I would be a little bit careful to kind of, if a summit happened the month before and going for the same speakers, you can definitely have a few of them. It could be definitely overlap, but I wouldn't go for the exact same people, because if they promoted the summit the month before, if you kind of see that's happening, it's not so common, to be honest. But if that happens, then, maybe have some other speakers. There's there's abundance with a lot of good speakers out there, good influencers. So I wouldn't worry about that. Online product creators, obviously they are good as well, because they're already doing something online. They're making money. So bloggers, authors, basically anyone with an online-based audience. And can also, one thing I want to share here, they can also be kind of really kind of university professors and stuff like that can also be powerful. Just keep in mind, some of these people, they might not have an audience. So you might bring them on. If you're teaching something around the health niche, right? You might want to have a professor who's really skilled at this, but maybe they don't have an online audience. So what you're going to do is just maybe still feature them. That doesn't really matter, but you're still going to have a balance of people with an audience so you can actually reach some people with the summit. All right? All right, let's keep going here. Let's see if you have anyone coming in. And then action for this, basically. You create your dream 100 list or like a big wish list. This can also expand over time. we have a list of like hundreds of people now. But when you start out, I think, start with 100. If you struggle to do that, like start with 50 or whatever. That's kind of use a Google Sheet to create this list, or Airtable, or whatever you want to do, and create this list and have all the details for them in there. And that list is not really kind of just the speakers you're going to reach out to. I'm not saying you're going to reach out to like the 100 people on that list or the 50 people on that list, but you are going to kind of start identifying them. And then it's all about you kind of selecting the people who are the right fit for your summit, the right people to speak at your summit, which is extremely important. So you actually see that they align with whatever you want to do. So you attract the right audience for your summit and for your business. That's kind of crucial, but just thought I'd share that here. And then step 2 is provide value to influencers before you need it. And I know that kind of sounds a little bit counterintuitive, because how do you do that? You're starting out, and how do you actually add value to someone before you need them? That's really crucial, that you add maximum value you can, but you can do this at the same time as you're going through this process. So even if you're not going to host a summit for some reason, I think this is really useful to do and make this part of your routine. And that's kind of what I've done over the years as well. So let's get into that. So basically, you can give them a great case study review, a testimonial. So let's say you're on here, leave comments, whatever, like anything like this. If you're on a live stream, if you're a student of a product, you can actually kind of come in and give them a testimonial or something. If you learn something from someone, you can share what you learned, and even better if you implemented it, because you'll be surprised. Most people never share anything. If you're on here, probably most people are kind of, just kind of not saying anything, right? That's kind of what most people do. But if you're one that's, you say something on on recording like this or live stream, which we are doing right now, then you can definitely do this. And then here, comment on their blog or social media posts, just kind of seeing where they hang out and comment, and then share their content on your blog or social media, and then introduce them to someone they want to meet. That's so powerful. Like, be the champion of making introductions. And maybe you don't know so many people now, but you can still probably help them in some way. You can identify where an influencer need help and then provide it to them. Like, I get constantly people hit me up and they don't do anything, right? They just kind of want something from me. But occasionally I do have someone who tries to add value, genuinely add value to me. Maybe they, recorded a video of something, I could do better on my website or whatever that is, right? That's value, and that's adding value to any influencer. If you have something you can share, do that. And let's say, another thing is that, let's say you have spelling mistakes on your website or something, and you just, that's kind of a bad way of doing it. Like, I think you can definitely let them know about something like this, but I think that's not the most effective way to do this, especially if you just kind of really pick, hey, you have a spelling mistake here, but rather kind of going through how they can make something better. That's kind of more valuable. And, leaving reviews on their books or podcasts. If you're reaching out to kind of an author, why not leave a video review even for their book or podcast? But hey, that's something you can do. How hard is it? If you have read a book, do you just take out your phone or whatever that is, post a video on YouTube, post it on Amazon, whatever that is, and then you will stand out, because most people, they don't do things like that. Do things that most people are not willing to do, and you will stand out. So that's a great takeaway there for you guys. And then let's keep going with this. So a bonus for you, if you can. I didn't do this when I hosted my first summit, or before that I couldn't do that. I wasn't traveling. I didn't have any money like when I started out, so I just kind of couldn't go to kind of events. I was in Sweden at the time. It was a little bit hard to go to events in, typically in the United States, kind of where most of my audience is based. So I couldn't do that. But this is a great strategy for you. If you can meet people at events, that's powerful. And don't be like this guy or girl who's starstruck, like, hey, I want a photo with you, Pat, or something like this. You can still do that. I'm not saying you can get the photo, but you're gonna be at the same kind of level as them. You're not gonna put them on a pedestal, right? That they are like, oh, this, massive guy. That's not really how you do it. That's kind of the wrong approach. Rather, being one of them, being a peer of theirs, that's what's working when you go to these events, and kind of, also doing your research up front, and then you look really smart, and they're like, oh, wow, who's this person? Who's this Navid guy who's coming up to me here? I didn't know him before, but now I'm definitely interested to learn more. And that's how it should be. And you can definitely present, in that case, hey, I'm hosting this event. Would you be interested to speak? If you have some good kind of rapport with each other, and that's a good way to do it. All right. So step 3, you're going to use the ladder strategy to connect with high-level influencers. That's something I came up with. That's kind of, we have used this over the years in Virtual Summit Mastery, and, I've taught different variations of this, and it's pretty powerful, to be honest. And it's basically that you categorize each person by their level of influence. So you have up-and-comers, you have trusted authorities, and you have A-listers. A-listers kind of in the entrepreneur space would be like a Tim Ferriss, Gary Vaynerchuk, can be kind of, Tony Robbins even, and people like that. They're like the really big celebrity influence. Even like, Neil Patel, John Lee Dumas, people like that as well. They can be kind of typically an A-lister, right? Then you have trusted authorities. They have still big audiences. They still have very good followings. And so these are the people you typically want to kind of put more focus on because they're going to be more likely to promote for you, the trusted authorities and up-and-comers. Because in A-listers, they are really busy. They plan their marketing calendar long in advance. So you're going to be a little bit lucky, actually, if you get someone like that to promote your first summit out of the gate. You can definitely earn up to it, like adding value to them and using some of the strategies I've taught here. But then the up-and-comers, and that's not just people who have no audience. That can actually be people who are growing pretty quickly. I mean, I'm going to have people on kind of List Building School 2.0. I always kind of, me and my team, we always research people on YouTube, different channels. You can use different tools for this too, kind of see who's growing quickly, see who's kind of coming up to the game, like Social Blade for YouTube. You can kind of see who's growing quickly on YouTube. And there's other things as well, even introductions from some of your speakers, and you can kind of find new ones as well. And then you're going to aim towards having this mix of each speaker type. I think kind of, if you're starting out, it's going to be a little more effective for you to have more, I would say, trusted authorities and up-and-comers. Depends a little bit on your strategy, but especially if you're going for kind of the promotion and one more promotion, it's a little bit easier. If you're going to do, let's say, a lot of Facebook ads and stuff like that, definitely you need some people maybe you can target on Facebook. That's going to be pretty good. And, as I said even before and taught my students long time, Facebook ads for summits can be like an amplifier. It can definitely do really well. You can do cold if you want to, but it's not needed necessarily if you have good speakers on your summit who can actually share it with their audience. You can do some retargeting and stuff like that. But if you really want to kind of be able to target speakers on Facebook, obviously you need a few big ones. Like most people, you cannot target them on Facebook. And I'm not going to make this into any Facebook masterclass or anything like that, but that's kind of, some insights how you can think about it. You can definitely have a few A-listers, but then kind of the bias should be towards the trusted authorities and up-and-comers in your space. And that's kind of how you do it, especially when you're starting out. I think that's very effective. All right, let's keep going here. All right, so this basically start at the bottom and climb up. So you have the up-and-comers, trusted authorities, and A-listers. And sometimes people, they don't understand exactly what this means. I don't mean, if you know Tony Robbins, go for him first. That's going to be a massive win for you right out of the gate. For sure, go for him. If you know John Lee Dumas or Neil Patel or whoever that is in your industry, go for them right away. I think that's really smart. If you know that they're probably going to say yes anyway, and you have kind of a good summit idea and summit topic in mind and all this, you're going to do something great with this, why not? But most people, they're not there. So get some momentum. Maybe start with people kind of maybe some up-and-comers. So get an introduction to someone. You get the momentum. You have a few people on board. Then you can name drop those people in the email outreach you're going to send to some of these other influencers who are harder to reach in other ways, right? So that's kind of really proven strategy. We go even more in depth into kind of how to do all this in Virtual Summit Mastery. But I thought I'd share it here. Hopefully this is valuable for you guys. And then it's basically, as I said, it's easier to climb up the ladder once you get a few influencers on board. It's definitely true. I see this all the time. Momentum is everything when it comes to this. All right, so here's kind of some results of using this, basically. L'Oreal, for example. I thought the big names would ignore me because I was new and but I was able to get 31 speakers such as Russell Brunson, Ryan Levesque, Kevin Rogers, Natalie Sisson, Todd Brown, Kat Terrace, and so many other big names. And this, here's even Rashida says, I'm so freaking out. I just got my first 3 A-list yes, which is amazing. That's and Devin says, so stoked. Just got a yes from Pat Flynn and Russell Brunson. Imagine this will open up doors for me while booking other speakers and stuff like that. So he basically, in this case, he went to an event. He kind of met at least Pat Flynn, but some other people, they just kind of reached out. They started with people they knew, and they kind of worked themselves up that ladder, and then got bigger and bigger names on board for their summit, and they did really well with it. So that's how this works. So tips for making the ask. I think that's also very important. Keep it short and simple so that it's easier for them to say yes. Personalize your invitation to the speaker. One size doesn't fit all. I kind of mentioned this before, kind of with the mistakes. Don't just have a template that you send to everyone. Personalize this. Personalize different aspects of that email, and it's going to be a lot more effective. And I'm going to share with you a bonus strategy if you stick around here as well. and add your own flair and personality in the invitation to make it stand out. That's very important. Just because I'm going to share with you a template here doesn't mean you should just swipe that, word for word. It's going to be a lot more effective if you can actually make this your own, as you're going to see here. All right. So this is the email script to get influencer. I've only shared this with Virtual Summit Mastery students until now. And honestly, we have other scripts. We have a lot of different kind of follow-up emails and all this stuff. But I just wanted to share one with you here. I think this is going to be valuable for most of you. And as I said, don't just swipe this completely. And I'm going to get into each part of it. But basically the first line here, basically the first kind of, you say always say, hey, is the name of the speaker, obviously. And the subject line can be something kind of specific to them, like you want to speak, or if they're, want to speak at an amazing virtual event or something like this can be the subject line, or something that resonates. Make it kind of specific. If you already know that you're going to get a lot of people, you can mention that or something like this. But here's what you do in the first kind of line of the email. You say something specific, a specific thing you took action on to make you stand out. That's the most effective. If you haven't done that, at least listen to a podcast or mention something specific that you have kind of experience with that influencer, especially if you don't know them that well. If you have already connected with them on social media, then you reference that thing in the first line of the email. And then you basically say, I just wanted to reach out. I'm hosting this online summit, blah, blah, blah. And then you can mention the topic. And then you can mention kind of what you want to feature them on, why you want them on there, what topic, all right? So that's a mistake also people make. They actually just expect the speaker to come up with a topic. And if they want to change anything and based on what you kind of have the idea, they will say that. But usually you look more pro if you actually, reach out to them and then suggest a topic based on kind of your research. And then basically you're saying we are expecting X number of attendees. If you don't know this, don't worry, to be honest. Obviously you can expect kind of, a few thousand people. Don't lie about numbers and say like 10,000 people, 30,000 people or anything like that. They can kind of see through it. I wouldn't do that for the first one unless you really kind of think you're going to get that many numbers. So, we talk in Virtual Summit Mastery about having a good, better, and best goal. So kind of use, something in between there. I wouldn't use, the highest number, because what if it doesn't go as planned? You're coming in with this, especially as you're starting out, it's a little bit harder. And then you're going to list some of the names of speakers you have on board. That's why the ladder strategy is so powerful, because now you already have some speakers on board before you start doing these kind of emails and stuff like that. And then you basically say, interested. It's very low commitment, kind of like a podcast, but a lot more fun and more exposure. And then I promise it'll be a good time. And then you say, just let me know, I can give you more info. So you can also even add a link to schedule a time, but honestly, I kind of just keep it very open. And you could also in a PS include like a one-page document or something like that about kind of what they can expect, commission and all this kind of stuff for the summit. But usually I just keep it very open, and I kind of customize this as I please, basically 4 different influencers. I don't use kind of exactly like this, and I don't recommend you do that either. But and then also it comes down to kind of the follow-up and all this kind of process to really get some of them to say yes. Some say yes right away. Some you need kind of a good follow-up sequence as well. And that's something will even give you more in-depth kind of how you can do this inside of Virtual Summit Mastery. So hopefully this is helpful. Let me know in the comments or chat if this is helpful. I've only shared this before inside of Virtual Summit Mastery, as I said, but now you can definitely take a screenshot or come back to this and check it out here to get some influencers to say yes. So tips for using this email script. Start with a specific compliment. I kind of mentioned it. I just want to recap. Start with a specific compliment about their work, and then tell them why you're reaching out, and then suggest a topic to interview them about to make it easier, and then mention to the number of attendees you're expecting. If you know this, if you don't know, or if it's hard kind of to estimate, then don't worry too much about this. Just say kind of you're putting this together, kind of the reasons why, and then add social proof by name dropping other speakers on board, and then ask if they're interested in being part of the summit. Really low key, like we don't mention, hey, you need X number of subscribers or anything like that in there. And then you're gonna end with a direct call to action to like, hey, are you interested? Let me know. And usually if it's a big influencer or something like that, they're gonna like ask for maybe more info, and they can send them more info. And if they're just, some people just say yes right out of the gate, and you get really good responses there. So this is what you do, all right? And then one VSM student reached out via Twitter to Rand Fishkin. He actually saw my summit when I had Rand Fishkin on, and Jan got him on there. And then he make a low commitment ask and see if they're interested. That's also a great strat. You can maybe you have seen them on Facebook. I'm not recommending to reach out to the biggest influencers via like a Facebook message. That's usually not, unless they're really hanging out there and you kind of have a connection with them. Otherwise, Twitter is pretty powerful with some influencers if they're hanging out there, like this example. And then you can just send more info via email. Still, email is going to be usually where the communication happens, like back and forth and stuff like that, with kind of the whatever they need to schedule and all this stuff. That's basically so it's kind of stays there. Social media kind of changing a lot, get a lot of messages, so it's not as effective. All right, but it can be a good way to start and kind of break the ice there. And a bonus strategy to kind of reach influencers, especially if you're new, is to use video. And here's what Sebastian says. I have more students, like even Sonia, I mentioned in an email I sent out to my list as well. I follow the teachings from the VSM course to see when approaching, to a T when approaching influencers. I did a video invitation, had 5 out of 6 success rate. This was a key because no one knew who we were, and that was in the Spanish, kind of Latin American market, by the way. That was kind of, they didn't even know what summits was in that market, and he did really well there. So if you're enjoying this, let me know, and let me know in the comments. If you have any questions as well as you go through this, if you're on live, do let me know. Otherwise, I'll check in on comments afterwards, even for the replay as well, and answer anything you have there as well. All right, we have a little bit more to cover here as well. So the value of connections. So Julian says the top industry leaders are now aware of me and who I am. I've also benefited from being asked to produce and host summits for one of my speakers, which is a side benefit. He was like in kind of the insurance space as well, and did pretty well there. And Sade, she did really well with her summit. She did basically, she says, I tripled the size of my email list and did a 5-figure course launch and got booked for many speaking gigs thanks to Navid's Virtual Summit Mastery. And that's the value of influencer connection and doing and hosting a really widely successful virtual summit. So hopefully you're a little bit more excited about putting together this summit and doing this for your own business. And lastly, it's really important to make it a win-win-win for your speaker's audience and you. And I have mentioned this before. Actually, we did kind of part 1. I'm doing a little series, so I'm gonna link up the other resources. I did kind of what is a virtual summit and some reasons why you should host one and all this. I did that in another video in part 1. So I'm gonna definitely link that. And I talked about kind of how Virtual Summit Mastery works. It's built upon this framework that you need to make it a win for your speakers, you need to make it a win for your audience, have really valuable content, and it's gonna be a win for you, because if you do all these things which I've talked about, more people are going to be excited to come on board and share what you are doing as well. And that's what it's about here. So make it a win-win-win for your speakers, audience, and you. And Caitlin Pyle is a great example of someone took this to heart. She hosted the Work at Home Summit, did really, really well, because she wanted to kind of get into that new market. She was doing really well with some strategies around this, and then she decided to host the summit. So making it a big win for the speakers. So she said that was kind of her biggest thing. And her speakers, they got hundreds, if not thousands of email subscribers just being featured on her summit. And her summit was pretty big, as you're gonna hear. But even if you have a smaller summit, you can still send hundreds of email subscribers to your speakers just by being featured on your summit. If you position their lead magnet, position them well on the summit, that can be pretty powerful. Just from doing a 30-minute session or 45 or even an hour session, they will never get that level of kind of exposure in terms of email subscriber growth by being featured on a podcast. Even I've been featured on some big podcasts like EO Fire and stuff like that. Maybe I'm getting, a few hundred subscribers, like on the, if it's really good, but honestly, that rarely happens. Usually it's kind of crickets, it's a few here and there you might get from it. And there's definitely kind of, you can go around and getting on many podcasts and stuff like that, but it's the kind of a hit and miss a little bit when you do this. But with a summit, these speakers can come on there and they can actually grow their list by being featured if you're doing things the right way. And make it a big win for speakers and partners. And you see here, some of her speakers, Julie says, I've added 1,000 people to my list in the last 24 hours. Some other people say 575 people have been added to our list. And, I think this person who got the most subscribers from her summit, they got like over 2,000 people added to their email list, which is incredible. Just from a 45-minute session or whatever that was, they're building their email list by being a speaker on this. Then they're never gonna get that from a live event or anything like that. It just doesn't happen, really. Imagine, a few hundred people. That's a really big room for a live event. And even if you're using like, getting them to sign up via their phone or whatever that is, you're not gonna close the entire room there or whatever it is. But with a virtual summit, you can still, if you have a few, thousands of attendees for a summit, they can get some good exposure from these sessions and actually get people who are committed, to growing their business, improving their life or health or family, parenting, whatever that is, to actually sign up for their email list as well and learning from these experts. And that's kind of what it's about here. As you hear, this is not only about you. It's about kind of making it a win for everyone who's coming on board here. So that's very important. And she got some great results, 60,000 opt-ins, email subscribers, new email subscribers, and even she grew her Facebook group by 30,000 people and over $500,000 in revenue. I'm sure it's a lot more since then from this, but this was kind of from the live launch she did for that summit. And I'm not saying that you're gonna make these numbers. I just wanted to address the point here that it is important that you really make it a win-win-win for everyone involved. Your speaker is gonna have a really big incentive by being part of this, and you can do this even if you're a nobody right now and you're starting out. A quality summit, as I said, isn't about you. It's about forming authentic relationships with other people in your niche and helping them too. So that's what it's all about here, guys. That's what you gotta do. So hopefully you enjoyed this one. And yeah, so I see here some people say awesome content. And I'm gonna address a few questions here, but before I do that, I wanted to get back to this and ask you this question. So if you're on here, but definitely leave a comment below this video or in the chat, whatever, and let me know the top 5 speakers you'd love to have on your virtual summit. I would love to know that, seriously. I'm interested to know what market you're in, all this kind of stuff, right? So do let me know. If you're coming on for the replay and watching this after the live stream, do let me know in the comments and hit that like button. Seriously, I've given a lot of value here, guys. So, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, all this kind of stuff, right? And I'm gonna make sure to bring it. We have a third part as well for this series I'm doing, and that's gonna be even better. I'm gonna be on there for probably 90 minutes or even longer. It's gonna be incredible, that last part of the series here. And I'll be sure to link that as well below, and you can check it out afterwards if you're coming on here as well. And if you are interested, obviously, in Virtual Summit Mastery, you can be on my email list to get more of that. The best place is to get, if you're not on my list yet, to go to summitcheatsheet.com, and you can just get on the list. And whenever we have something open with Virtual Summit Mastery or anything else, you'll get notifications about this. Plus, you get kind of my proven 7-step process, which I'm going to break down in that third part of this series I'm hosting. So that's going to be in the next video here coming pretty soon on the channel. So I'll link that as well below. But for now, let's get into some questions. Briefly, I have a Facebook group as well. So I'm doing some Q&As there as in the group. So kind of after this part, I might go in there to the group to do kind of talking more about this. If you have further questions, that's kind of go in there. If you're on my list, I should probably have sent an invite to that group as well. But I can put it in the description as well here on YouTube. So, all right, so let's see. Does regular Skype account connection deliver enough quality for recording, or what kind of account do you suggest? Skype worked well for my first summit. I mean, a lot of things has evolved over time, so I don't really recommend doing that too much anymore. I think Zoom is acceptable quality. It's 720p usually. Ecamm Live has been pushing it. That works on a Mac, so that's pretty good software. So that you can actually bring people on from Skype. So usually with this type of connection, type of thing, you need a little bit better internet connection. So if you are, wherever you're based in the world, just kind of call your internet provider and make sure you can get the maximum upload speed you can get. That's gonna serve you pretty well. It's all about the upload speed. Download doesn't matter as much for doing video like this. It's all about the upload, and doing things like this that requires a little bit higher. But if you have a solid, I would recommend at least trying to have 5 to 10 megabits per second upload speed if you're doing anything. Probably not like this. This is streamed really high quality, but if you're doing kind of regular session via Zoom or even YouTube Live, Google Hangouts on Air, that's gonna be acceptable quality for your summit, I would say. So you can do this. And that's fine. I'm just pushing the levels. That's kind of what I do with my summits. I'm always innovating. I want to make sure the quality is better. That's why I'm doing things like this. I'm also interested in this. I'm streaming this with a Panasonic GH5 and capture card and all this. That's not how I started. I made a lot of money before I even upgraded my quality like this. And we teach all these different levels in Virtual Summit Mastery. So you can start with Logitech C920, C922 webcam or whatever. They have different levels of that. Logitech webcams are pretty solid. They're really inexpensive, less than $100. And then you can have an Audio-Technica ATR 2100 microphone. And that's basically it. That's a good way to start, to be honest. And just make sure you have a decent lighting and all this. Not like how I did my first, few summits. It was not the best, but hey, people came on board for these and they were excited to be part of it because of the content. The content is the most important thing. But then, of course, as we progress with internet and all this kind of stuff, it kind of gets a little more important to do also higher quality. But you can start where you are and then upgrade over time. I think that's the biggest takeaway there. Uh, all right, let me read here what some people are saying. So, as I said, Daniel said, awesome content, future life now. We used your free checklist in 2018, had good first time summit in 2019. We were able to clear some decent profit for the amount of work besides growing our list and reputation. That's awesome. Thanks a lot, says Future Life Now. That's awesome. He says also who he's perfect. Norman. I'm not sure how I pronounce this. It's, Stephen Porges, Basil, and that would be my 3 perfect summit guests. Yeah, it's important to know this, who you want to get on board, but still, kind of have your dream 100, dream, start with 50 people, whatever. You don't have to feel overwhelmed. But as kind of a big takeaway from this, if you want to build kind of your authority in your niche practically overnight, implement this. This is like not this kind of BS a lot of people are teaching on YouTube. Hey, blog away. I mean, that helps with authority building. I'm not saying that is not working. It just this is the most effective way to exponentially, build your email list, influence, and revenue in your market. Like, you are going to see this if you host a virtual summit. It's going to be more effective than probably any other strategy you've used, and that's going to obviously build your authority. Like, you don't have to trick people that you are this go-to expert. That's not what a summit is about. It's not about tricking anyone to believe that you're an expert. You're not going to create an online course. If you don't have any expertise, which I didn't have when I started, I'm not gonna create an online course and tricking people into buying that. That's not how it works. But when you have this kind of a summit, you bring in a lot of experts. You don't have to even be an expert to host a summit. And what is really an expert? It's really someone who knows a little bit more than someone else. So when you're doing things over time, you're gonna learn more, and you can start, teaching things as well. That's kind of how it works. So. And Nick Murphy says here, James Wedmore, Stu McLaren, Steve Chandler are 3 of my perfect summit guests. That's awesome. That's great. I love Stu. I just had an interview with him. You can find that actually on the channel. He's an awesome person. Really great to have him every time, in the tribe community or anything like that. Stu is great. James Wedmore as well, obviously. And yeah, let me know if you have any further questions. Do let me know. We're gonna keep the Q&A kind of short here, and then we can definitely cover more in an upcoming session or in the Facebook group, which I will link below. And be sure you are prepared for part 3. This is just kind of breaking this down. First video, I talked more about what is a virtual summit, how this can really work, tons of examples. And here I basically showed you my proven process, how you can become an authority in your industry practically overnight by actually, getting influencers to say yes to speak on a virtual summit and hosting this amazing event in your industry. That's kind of what it's about here. It's not about taking from anyone, as I mentioned. It's about you actually just kind of deciding this is what's going to make a difference in my business. And whatever you're gonna do, having these influencers, that's gonna be pretty powerful. Like Chandler Bolt, I helped him years ago with his first summit, and then he hosted a second one. He grew his email list by over 60,000 people and made over $700,000 in revenue. He had a pretty small audience when he started, actually, in retrospect, like looking back, and now he has a massive audience, and all these influencers, they know who he is. But when he started, nobody knew who he was. He was just trying to grow self-publishing school and making a bigger impact. And the summits really helped with that because he got these influencers on board for the summit. He hustled, of course. He put in the work in implementing what we are teaching with Virtual Summit Mastery and some of these strategies here in this session. And then he basically got results. And, now he's like multi-million-dollar business because of he started hosting these summits. That basically was the catapult for his online business. So, and I see Rudolph coming on here as well. Yeah, absolutely. If you're on here live, do let me know in the chat. But otherwise, do let me know in the comments. I'm going to put this up here once again, and then we're going to kind of wrap this up. So leave a comment below this video. Let me know the top 5 speakers you'd love to have on your summit. Or if you don't know your top 5, put at least your top 3 or something like this. Just start taking some action, implementing some of this, and you will see massive success. And basically, it all comes down to you adding a value to these influencers to come on board. And I broke this down here. So if you're on here live or you came on late or something, definitely go back to the replay and watch this, and do let me know in the comments who you would like to have on board for your summit. And I'm just gonna do a quick check here as well. Yeah, so what type of gears do you use today? I mean, that's a great question. I do have a link in the description of this kind of video here, which is my live streaming gear or whatever I'm using. I think most should be up to date, but I'm using a Panasonic GH5, a capture card, basically an external one. Now I'm using an iMac Pro, actually, so it's more expensive. That's basically how I can stream in this high quality, because you need really good, equipment to do that kind of stuff. But that's not really what you need to do. It's just because I'm interested in pushing the boundaries and doing this for myself doesn't mean you need to start there. I mean, is bigger investment. Cost a few $1,000s to kind of up-level the quality. I had just some students basically up-leveling their quality. So as you host your first summit, you can do the best you can, and we definitely, have a lot of different strategies around this. We're gonna talk a little bit more about it in part 3 of this series as well. But really, it comes down to you just doing what you can with Zoom or YouTube Live, Ecamm Live, whatever, and then you can upgrade to like a Sony A6400 or whatever, or a Panasonic GH5 or something like this, and then you can actually upgrade the quality, and you can actually bring in kind of something like this as a webcam even when you're using Zoom. So when you're using a capture card, you bring this in. But that's kind of outside the scope of this video session, but I do have a link in the comments. navidmoazzez.com/livestreaming gear is a link for that in case you're interested a little bit about tech and stuff like that as well here. But if you're not on my list, as I mentioned before, go to summitcheatsheet.com and you can get on that list, and you will get absolutely get some more details for the upcoming videos we have, and also when we are kind of opening the doors for Virtual Summit Mastery. So we do that typically a few times a year, but we have one probably coming up here if you're on here live. So stay tuned for that, and I'll check in here as well. So Daniel says, time to do some research, time to identify experts in my niche. For sure, you would be one of them. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks so much for this great live video. So yeah, I really appreciate every single one of you came on live. I know sometimes time zones doesn't always work for live sessions, but if you're on the replay, I still value you. So leave a comment below. Who do you want to have on your summit? And I'm really, really excited for what you're gonna do with this. I'll put this on here one last time so you can kind of see this. Definitely leave the top 5 speakers you'd love to have on your summit. And I can't wait to talk to you guys very, very soon. I'm really excited for you to implement this and getting some amazing results in your business. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.